Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to On the Bright Line podcast, tales from recovering food addicts from the perspective of a physician, a therapist, and an off-the-wall storyteller. We are not affiliated or endorsed by Brightline Eating, and all content presented in this podcast represents our personal opinions and does not represent medical, nutritional, or psychological professional advice. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the Brightline Eating Program, BLE, and how to begin and where to begin. So, Bonnie, do you want to talk about how you and Clay started the program?
Sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And again, the Brightline Eating Program is obviously a trademark program that we don't own or work for. We just follow the program. So we'll be giving you information at the end of this podcast about how to connect with the program, how to get information about the book, or to join the community if you're interested. But for me, my husband Clay and I both started it together. We read the book together, and we decided, because we've started a lot of diets before, and we'd gone in and thrown out all the food. You go throw out all the food. I'm going to throw out all the clothes. I'm going to throw out all the big clothes and throw out all the food. And then we'd lose 10 pounds, and we'd gain it all back again. It's like, okay, and then all that food was wasted. And we also kind of felt like we were really going to commit to this forever. And so we recognized that we were going to be grieving a little bit over the loss of certain foods that we had really come to enjoy. And so we had a pantry full of food and a refrigerator full of food. So we just made a conscious decision. We're going to eat the rest of this food. And we're going to even go out to eat and get some of the out to eat foods we like. And we're going to say goodbye to each food with intention, one at a time. And we're just going to do that. And we're not going to add sweets or add things. We're not going to go buy new things or whatever. But we're just going to kind of eat at our favorite restaurant one more time. We're going to eat that favorite thing. And we ate through the food that we had just slowly. And every night we just consciously oh, I really enjoy this and it's okay. And I'm saying goodbye to it. And so we kind of eased into it.
Was this right after you read the book?
Yeah, right after we read the book. And we did not weigh our food or measure or anything.
Yeah.
And then once we had finished all the not my food, NMF is what we call it, not my food. Once we finished all those foods, then we started weighing and measuring and only having 3 meals a day and not having snacks. So I think we probably cut out snacks, but we didn't really do any of the other things until we were done with that. And that actually worked really well. It just felt like a nice, soft landing instead of a jarring. And I think only, again, because psychologically the sudden change is what we'd done every other time before. Right. And so this just felt more intentional and more planned, and it felt like it was going to be more successful. And I think it was. It was a nice, gentle way to ease into it. It wasn't abrupt, and it didn't feel traumatic or like we were being deprived.
Right. And I think one thing we haven't said yet is, what are the bright lines? We've talked about this program, and my assumption is a lot of people that have found our podcast are probably bright lifers, people who are in the program, that sort of thing. So you guys probably know this, but there may be some people out there also that have no idea what we're talking about. Right. And so, let's go through what are the bright lines.
All right.
So we
what
can,
are they?
What are the bright lines, Bonnie?
So the bright lines are no sugar, no flour, no snacking, and we weigh and measure our food. And the idea is these are hard lines we don't cross, so that's why they're noted to be bright lines. So no snacking between meals. When you start the program in the weight loss program, there is an amount of ounces of each type of food that you get for each meal based on your gender. That's it. It's not like age, height, or anything else. It's just like women get 4 ounces of protein per meal, men get 6. And you basically, the program is a fruit, a protein, and a grain for breakfast, a fruit, a protein, and a vegetable for lunch, and a protein and a vegetable for dinner. So it kind of keeps all of your high carb, your fruits, which are a carb, even though they're good carbs, it keeps all that earlier in the day. And medically, that rests your pancreas overnight. So that's the theory of that. As well as the not eating between meals also helps reset your your pancreas and your system from all the constant snacking that I was doing. And so, that's the 4 bright lines. And so that was a lot to take in for me again. So we just kind of transitioned to starting with the no snacking part essentially. Right. And we didn't really follow the other 3 lines until we got rid of the food in our house.
Yeah. And I'm going to go a little bit further. The no sugar, we don't do artificial sweeteners. We don't do refined sugar. We don't do any natural sugar, so no honey, molasses, anything like that.
Monk fruit, I saw someone ask about that.
Stevia, anything.
Or alcohol.
Yes, alcohol, because alcohol is obviously turns itself into sugar. So that's no sugar. No flour is not only just wheat flour, it's any refined flour. So that there's a hard line against that too, because I get that question all the time. Oh, so you can have almond flour. No flour. Right. Nothing refined down to a powder. So
it's not a gluten-free diet. It's basically a no processed food diet, right? Because all of those foods are highly processed.
Yeah. So having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like Bonnie said, no snacking in between, and then weighing, and the portions of what's considered weight loss, what's considered maintenance, all that sort of thing, are all outlined in the book and in the community. So these aren't arbitrary things that you're guessing at. They're very specific, hard and fast, like she said, bright lines, and we don't cross them. That's part of the program. So that's how you got started.
Yeah. And how did you get started?
And I got started. So I had a come to Jesus moment with my labs that were real bad, and decided that I needed to make a drastic change. And so, yes, it was very cold turkey. I decided that the next day was going to be my day one, and I still live in a house that has tons of not my food around it, because I have little children and I have a husband who does not eat brightly, and so there is all kinds of food that I think would be hard for other people to be around. But I just decided from the very beginning that I was not gonna. It's not my food. It's not my food. I'm not eating it anymore. Like, it's not my food. So it's interesting because I traveled with my parents after they had started doing BLE, and I was on BLE, and we were with my nieces who don't subscribe to BLE, and there was tons of snack food that they had, and I didn't stress. It wasn't a stressful thing for me because I'm used to being around it. But my mom and my dad, when they started BLE, had cleaned out their entire house of all not my food. And so my mom, I think it was one of the first times that I think my mom and my dad had been around not my food. And my mom was just like, oh my gosh, like, how do you do this all the time? Like, I'm just like, I just decided it wasn't my food, And so I think that's one thing, like being a mom of littles. I think that's makes it a little harder, because I think it's pretty much assured that if you have little kids, like, you're going to have some not my food in your house. There's going to be, whatever, I could name them, but it's not even important to name them, but you're probably going to have those around your house. So, just, I think making that distinction in my mind and saying, like, nope, this isn't for me. So I think the other thing that I did immediately was I signed up for the program, and it's a little different now the way the program runs. I could just, when I signed up, it was just, you could just jump in at any point. The actual Brightline community, the way that they have their setup now is there's entry points at different times of the year where they hold boot camps, and so it's a little bit different. But I just jumped in when I decided I was going to start, and I started
when you were ready.
Yeah, when I decided my day one was, and I at that moment I didn't immediately look for accountability, but that came very shortly thereafter. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about is that one of the suggestions that she makes, and it's probably not a suggestion, it's probably almost a mandate of the program, is writing down your food, right, the night before. And so it's interesting because we talked about in an earlier episode, tapping and tracking, that we had all 3 done tapping and tracking in our past lives to counteract exercise. Like, how much more food can we have? Doing the calorie dance of like, oh, I could have more food. But then the cool thing, and I think one of the things that a plug for the book and to go read the book, is she really talks about willpower and how we all have a limited amount of willpower, and it has nothing to do with you being a strong, smart, intelligent, person. It has nothing to do with who you are. It's not a character flaw, for you to have a limited amount of willpower, because everybody has a limited amount of willpower.
Yeah.
And if you are at the end of your willpower bucket at 5 o'clock and you have to make a decision about dinner, you probably aren't going to make the best decision because your willpower is depleted. And I just like, that was the most freeing moment in my mind when I'm like, holy crap, I'm not lazy. I'm not just a stupid lazy person that can't control their weight.
It's science. It's called decision fatigue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so one of the things about the program is we write down our food, the night before. Sometimes, I do it in the morning, but that's me, and that's just the way I choose to do it. But there's no decisions to make throughout the day that way. You already know what you're going to eat. You eat you eat what you've written down.
Yeah.
And so there's no decisions to make. And I think that that's another really distinct thing about this program, that it's not about making decisions in the moment. It's about just following the plan that you've set forth. So.
And I forgot to mention that obviously, in addition to reading the book and deciding to start the plan, I also did join the program. And I think when we joined, you just basically purchased the boot camp course is what you did before there was like a membership. Then now there's a membership plan where but I recognized that in addition to making the food change, I was going to have to work on myself. And I had already done some work on myself with therapy and with some other programs that I participated in just to help me work through all the traumas that we have from our childhoods. But I definitely felt like that was really an important tool for success, is that there was all these modules, and I could just do a couple modules every night, and that just kind of helped me through the whole beginning of it, just kind of immersing myself in it, getting through the idea that, I'm really going to have to work on this part's going to help with just the chemical addiction to the food. Right. But I need to work on the psychological part of why I use food as a comfort, and what else am I going to put in there?
Right. Yeah. And I think it's so easy to just say, well, if I just learn what to eat, then it's all fine and dandy and it'll be easy. And that's not what I have found to be true with everybody that I've worked with. That it's more about, okay, why am I putting this in my mouth? What's going on that I am reaching for something, right? And in the addiction community, they'll talk a lot, are you, hungry, angry, tired, restless, right? Restless and discontent. And it's that, how do you start learning new ways to self-soothe? And I think that's the beauty of the BLE program, is that it encompasses so many of those aspects.
Well, and the modules in the program are also, it doesn't just cover the food. Like, that's the thing. It doesn't just, I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's what, that's kind of what Bonnie said, is it's not just about, here's the food to eat. This is the way you need to eat it. But it's like, also, it works through what, in the program, we talk about the inner work, like talking, working through all of the things in trauma, that we deal with, and, that sort of thing. This is not my expertise, but I think that that's another thing, is it recognizing that you're a whole person, and that it's not just about food decisions. It's about why you're using food, and to cure an addiction and that sort of thing. So I think that, all of this to say is that the first step is to read the book. If you're interested in this, we definitely recommend getting the book. Check it out from the library. That's a free way, or buy it online. There's tons of Kindle, paperback, hardcover, whatever you want. The Bright Line,
choose your format.
It's called Bright Line Eating.
The Bright Line Eating Solution.
Yeah, The Science of Being Happy, Thin, and Free by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson. So you can check it out from the library, online, whatever. And I always tell people, like, if they're like, oh, well, tell me what you're doing. I want to lose 20 pounds. And I always say, go read the book. Don't even make a change. Don't even think about making the change. Don't think about, oh my gosh.
This is what she said to me. This is exactly what she said to me. This is exactly what she said to me.
I say, go get the book and read it and see if it resonates with you. Because for me, that was my aha. And I feel like for other people, if they're going to come to it, if they're going to hit that point where they're ready for change, if they're going to hit that point where they initiate the program, it has to come from a real knowing of the why they're going to do it, and what the program is really about. And I think once you read the book, you kind of understand a lot more of the science and what the plan is. I see a lot of people on the online forums just like, well, tell me what I need to eat. What's the beginning of the diet? Because they're thinking about it like, those diets,
What I always
you eat
do.
just cabbage for 3 days, and then you drink 8 ounces of grapefruit for every meal, and then fast for 2 days, and then, whatever. It's like, that's not what this is.
Do you think that there is some avoidance of accepting that there is a food addiction.
Yes, I think the idea that if somebody's avoiding reading the book and, I don't want to read the book, just tell me what to eat, then they're not ready.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, then you're really not ready. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, just don't. There's no point.
And there's no prerequisite for joining the community, signing up for the membership for reading the book. So I will say that. I mean, it's not like you have to have read the book.
Right.
Like there's that, Clay, stop. Clay's telling me he didn't read it.
I never was in the program.
Oh, Clay
I
said,
read the book.
You're such a bad BLE member. Stop. He's saying
But
he
I
read the
never
book.
was a member.
He
I
read the
never
book, and I will say my
participated.
parents aren't either. My parents both read the book, and they never signed up and joined the program. I think you can do this. That's what I always tell people. Like, look, I'm not selling anything. I'm not getting anything from anybody signing up for a membership.
Yep.
Neither are Bonnie or Robin. Like, this is just. We're just talking about our experiences here, guys. And the reality is that you could do this completely free. You can check the book out from the library and you could put the plan in place without ever paying a dime to anyone. But I think this actually is a great segue into the next topic, which is talking about community. Finding a community is the next step. Read the book. And I think the next step is finding a community. So do you want to talk a little about the community that you found within BLE?
So there's a community through the program. So if you're a member of the program, there's a Facebook community for BLE. So that's one way. But there are also people that connect in private Facebook groups that aren't members of BLE. They don't want to pay for the membership. They don't feel like they need it anymore. It didn't work for them or whatever, for whatever reason. There are people in BLE all over the world.
Yep.
I live on a little island in Washington State, and there are people on this island that do BLE, and we've actually met up, so that's kind of cool. I'm lucky enough to have a spouse to do it with, and my sister is doing it, and now my friends are doing it. And so in a sense, we have our own community, and it's accountability. It's just support. I mean, again, if your social group eats and drinks alcohol and sugar and flour, it's going to be really hard for you to spend a lot of time with them if they're not doing something like this and succeed. And so I think finding people to hang out with that also are doing it certainly makes a difference. But there are many different ways to get community. And like you said, you don't have to join the BLE program. There's a sugar-free, flour-free Facebook group I've noticed. They post recipes, and you can definitely connect up with people. I think the issue is just deciding if you decide you really want to do this and you're really ready to make this change, adding some other people into your life in any way, whether that's online or in person, that can help support you on that, help you be accountable, help show you the way with what happened. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're doing this, is we just simply feel the urge to share with other people our experience, so to make it less overwhelming, to make it more accessible,
right? To
and
make it less
isolating.
right? And that kind of speaks to, I'm a science nerd. There was a Canadian psychologist back in the 70s, Bruce Alexander, and he was studying addiction, and he was looking at rats, and so wanted to know what would make a rat choose to be addicted or not addicted, right? And so he set up an experiment called the Rat Park. Okay, and so he built this fabulous rat park. He took about 20 rats and he built them the ideal situation, right? The Taj Mahal of Ratland, right? They had balls, they had food, they had both genders, so they could go off and have some little rat sex, right? So they had everything that they wanted. And he had one group that was raised in cages and given morphine-laced water. Right? So these rats were addicted to morphine. He took them and put them in the rat park and gave them a choice of water. Do you want the morphine-laced water, or do you want just regular water? The rats in the happy little rat park chose not to do the morphine water. They went back and chose just regular water because they didn't need it. They were getting their dopamine, right, from their community, right? And so a lot of times I'll use the language like you got to build your rat park. What's in your rat park?
I love it.
Right? And it's that idea that community, that a lot of it is about community. And so however you can choose to get your community and whatever you choose to put in your rat park is going to be a really powerful piece in letting go of that tie to the not my food.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think personally too, for me, I joined the online community, and I was a little bit of a voyeur at first, because I was like, I don't know how to even reach out for help. I was like, I joined this community and I
really?
don't know. Well, and that's the other thing, is they talk about buddies and guides and mastermind groups. And I'm like
Right.
Googling, like, what does all this mean?
is
Like, I'm like, I
this?
have no idea what all this means. Like, and I was like, I'm a smart person. Like, it shouldn't be so hard. And yeah, there's a lot of, lingo and jargon within the BLE community, which is, I get it. Like, people want to use the shorthand. But being a new person, it was a little intimidating at first, because I just didn't even know, like, how do you find a buddy? How do you find, so I did some posting, and I saw a post that 2 women were looking to set up a mastermind group, and I was like, okay, it's time for me to dive in. Like, I was already all in on the program, but I was like, okay, it's time for me to dive in on some accountability, some community. And so I joined up, and that's how I found my mastermind group. So it's, it was a post on Facebook. But I will say, if you are part of the BLE community, you're part of the Facebook community, and you're new and you're like, what is all this? I would just say, if you're comfortable, just dive in with both feet, put a post up, ask for what you need. People in general are super helpful, you know what I mean? And so I would say, just don't be afraid, because and I'm obviously, I don't have a confidence problem. I think Robin and Bonny can attest to that. I don't have a confidence problem, but I was even a little intimidated.
Yeah, that surprised me to hear you say
Yeah, but it's overwhelming. It's just overwhelming, because you see people's posts and you're like, oh, do I have to be somebody special or have something special to say to post, right? I think these thoughts, those are honest thoughts, like, that people go through. But the reality is that the community is very open. I will say that, like, if you're part of the online community, it is very open, and that people are normally really loving and accepting within the community. So just put yourself out there if you're looking for community. And I think the accountability, and I have mentioned this in previous episodes, that, like, accountability for me, I think, is key. I think it's the thing that has kept me successful in this program, is being accountable to lots of people, not just my mastermind group, but all those people around me.
Yeah.
But that accountability is key. So that's how I've chosen to find my accountability, is through that group. But I don't know, do you have any thoughts about accountability? Or
Yeah, I think, like I said, I use you guys. I don't do the online support group as much. I am in maintenance now, so I'm kind of on autopilot, and yet I still struggle a little bit with quantities and with my indulger side, deciding that maybe I can have a little more, or of something. I use you guys and my husband for accountability, for sure. I think more you guys than my husband, because you shouldn't really with your own spouse be like, well, don't let me eat this, or
Oh, yeah, you
that's
can't
just
make
not
them
a good.
responsible
No,
for your
that's not
addictions.
healthy.
Nope.
But for my friends, for you guys, I will say, hey, I'm going through a really stressful situation right now, which happened to me recently.
Yeah.
And you Meagan, said, okay, well, what's your plan? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna make sure I weigh myself. I'm gonna make sure I know that I'm at risk for increasing my quantities. So this is what I'm committing to. So I think that's important.
yeah, finding people that understand I think that's the other thing, is that in my life, I've probably never surrounded myself with, not that I've surrounded myself with unhealthy people. Like, I don't want to say that, but, like, I haven't been intentional about finding people that I know are interested in making sure that I stay on track, right?
Right.
And so now it's like, that's what I look for in my life. Not that I'm not cutting people out of my life, but I do find myself spending less time with people that aren't as understanding, or I have friends that don't do BLE that are like, oh my gosh, you're doing so amazing, like, good for
Right.
you, like, encouragement and that sort of thing. So obviously I want to continue to spend time with them, because they're encouraging and they're understanding. And then I have other friends that are a little pushery, and like,
Food pushers.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's a cultural thing, right?
It
I think about, like,
is.
everybody's like, I've got the T-shirt that says it's wine o'clock, and
Yeah,
then and all
right.
your friends go, yeah, wine o'clock,
Right.
and then it's like we're all validating that drinking wine at 5
it's-
o'clock is a
right.
good thing to do,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so if you have those people, when you decide to
well,
cut
it's like,
those
what else
things
are we
out,
going to do if we don't drink and eat
Yeah.
together? Like,
Right.
that's what else are we going to do if we don't drink it? It's like, oh, well, there's other things in the world, right?
But it sounds like you're saying you had to be really careful to choose your source,
Yeah.
right? That when you were looking for support, you really had to make sure, who were you going to for
Yes.
support?
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. So, is there any other thoughts about the program in general, about where people need to look if they're looking to get started? Because I think that's really what, we want to give people a good a good head start if they're interested in this, if they want to get into this and they haven't been involved in the community or read the book or.
Yeah. So in addition to the book, you can go to ble.com.
Brightlineeating.com.
Sorry, brightlineeating.com. There are a few videos on there that are called food freedom videos, I believe.
Those might not still be up. So
okay.
the new program that is being, I shouldn't say she, it's more than just Susan Pierce Thompson, the new way that they're running the program is they are going to be doing boot camps. I think it's every couple of months, and she will be putting out the food freedom videos that are brand new. They just released periodically leading up to those boot camps. So I think the ones that were out there are no longer on as of today, which is what, July 2nd. July 2nd, 2023. They are not currently there. So I think
but there's still information.
There is information. There is still information on the website, and I would definitely
information on the program, information on the membership. Susan Pierce Thompson puts out a weekly vlog every week where she talks about a different topic or aspect of the program, or just dealing with food addiction in general. So those are free to anybody, so you can also watch those. And I think there's a YouTube channel. Yeah, there's a YouTube channel, so you can actually see many of her vlogs on that. So that's another way to access information. So yeah, there's a lot. Like Meagan said, you can check a book out at the library. You can buy the book. You can go to the website. You can, I guess, you could join and become a member of the community of the program without reading a book, going through the boot camp. You have to go through the boot camp.
You have to go through the boot camp now. Yep. It's a different model than it used to be.
And I think her idea was she had people that joined and never participated.
Right.
And so there you're paying for a membership, and it's just kind of like that, buying that gym membership so you can feel good about yourself but not going.
Right.
So people were buying the membership and then not engaging in the material and not really committing. And so she felt like people need to come in through what she calls the boot camp, which is a 6-week program, I think 6 or 8 week program. 12 weeks?
Might be 12 or
okay.
I don't know. Sorry,
we don't work for BLE.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a program that introduces you to the whole way of living, and there's a new there's modules in the program, in the boot camp, about just prepping, like how to prep your kitchen, like what equipment you need, all that how
kind
to get
of stuff.
started. I mean, before you even get started.
She really does a good job. I do think that she does a really excellent job of walking you through.
Yeah, so if you're really ready, if you hit a point of readiness, whenever that is, I think starting with the boot camp is really smart.
It is very smart.
Yeah.
So, we have a.
Yeah, there's also inside the membership, there are a lot of other courses. So not just once you become a member. There is a happiness course, which is really cool. It's a college course that she taught when she was a college professor.
Is that Brightline Mind? Is that what that is?
It's called Brightline Mind. Yeah. And there's a lot of other interesting kind of courses to work on yourself, including maintenance modules for once you get to maintenance, how to deal with stress, how to deal with holidays, all that type of thing. So there's a lot of content in there.
Yeah, it's pretty comprehensive. So and again, this is not a commercial for BLE. We're just speaking from our own experience as far as the way that we've used the program, but it's not necessary. It's not a necessary. It's not. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to pay anybody to do this way of life. It's definitely all lined out in the book, and you could do it easily from there. Because like I said, Clay's done it that way. My parents did it that way. You don't have to go through the program. So, anything else that you have to say, Robin? Okay, Robin's shaking her head. You can't see that. But yeah, so much more to come. But this was just kind of our intro into what Brightline Eating is, and we'll be talking more about food addiction and what our lives are and how we move forward. So thanks so much for joining us today.